Hello! Michael B. Jordan and his pecs have returned for Creed 2, undoubtedly getting many fans, and particularly my producers, very excited. Making a sequel is never easy, but is it even harder when you have to follow up a visionary A-list director at the top of their game? This week on Heat Vision Breakdown, we look at the challenge director Stephen Caple Jr. faces by following up Ryan Coogler and his 2015 boxing hit. 2015 may only be a few years in our rear view, but quite a bit has changed since then, particularly if your name is Ryan Coogler. Hi Ryan. At the time, Coogler was a 29-year-old director with only one feature under his belt, the critically acclaimed 2013 drama Fruitvale Station, when he got the nod to helm Creed. Coming in to direct a semi-reboot of one of the world's longest-running franchises, Rocky, may have seemed like a tall order, but Coogler delivered not only a fantastic entry for the series, but also pumped new life into a shelved IP and brought it to an entirely new generation of audiences. Coogler was quickly hailed as one of the most exciting and creative new visionaries in Hollywood, and after the success of Creed, he moved on to a small pick called Black Panther from upstart filmmakers Marvel Studios. Maybe you've heard of them. It performed well, making over $100 million. $1.2 billion more than $100 million to be exact. So $1.3 billion. It made a lot of money. Coogler's meteoric rise left an empty director's chair for the planned Creed 2, however, and to say it was a daunting seat to climb into is a bit of an understatement. Stephen Caple Jr. has taken the reins for the sequel, which pits Jordan's Adonis Creed, yeah, he's hot, against Victor Drago, the son of the man who killed his father in the ring and was one half of the greatest training montage ever put to film. Caple is not the only director tasked with taking over a franchise from the visionary director who launched it. To continue my streak of mentioning George Lucas in every single video or public appearance I've ever made, in 1980, Irvin Kushner took over for George behind the camera on the second Star Wars film, The Empire Strikes Back. Unlike Caple, Kushner was already an established director, but his filmography did not include any projects starring a giant yodeling dogman or a rolling trash can that communicates solely through key fob sounds.
You nearsighted scrap pile.
Despite Lucas's vision being what launched the franchise that would eventually grow into one of the most profitable brands in the world, Kushner was able to step in and knock it out of the park, delivering what is widely considered the best entry in the franchise, at least by people with good taste. That type of success is not always the case, however. Take 1978's Jaws 2, for example. The follow-up to Steven Spielberg's 1975 classic, which won 3 Oscars, was helmed by French director Jeannot Swark, a man who went on to direct multiple episodes of pretty much every single network procedural produced between the years 2000 and 2010. Seriously, look it up. It's nuts. While the first Jaws is one of the most iconic films ever made and launched Spielberg's career as the most successful director of all time, Swark's sequel captured little of that magic, and while it hit commercially, was not well received critically and had relatively no lasting cultural impact, except maybe this scene of Jaws eating a helicopter. Shouldn't have put barbecue sauce all over your helicopter. Rocky 2 similarly took a major step down from its Best Picture winning original. Stallone actually moved behind the camera for the 1979 sequel, and the result was a film with much lower review scores and a far smaller box office haul. 3 decades after Ridley Scott's Blade Runner, Canadian filmmaker Denis Villeneuve had the audacity to try to follow up the sci-fi masterpiece, The Madman. The result was Blade Runner 2049, which lived up to the original in every conceivable way, including its muted box office. Whap. The director has described the $150 million film as the most expensive art house movie in cinema history, which is apt. It was hailed by critics and fans, but its underperformance was so severe that it led to layoffs at its production company Alcon Entertainment, and is estimated to have lost about $80 million when you account for production and marketing costs. James Cameron is one of the most respected and influential minds in blockbuster filmmaking, and multiple directors have dared to follow up Terminator and Terminator 2, Judgment Day. 2003's Terminator 3 was directed by Jonathan Mostow and was a perfectly serviceable action flick. The problem? It's not Terminator 2, one of the greatest sci-fi movies of all time. Probably the greatest sci-fi movie. Still, the series has chugged along, with 2009's Terminator Salvation and 2015's Terminator Genesis both failing to start their own franchise. An upcoming film from Deadpool director Tim Miller has Cameron back as a producer for the first time since T2. Fingers crossed. Another recent example is this year's Deadpool 2. Atomic Blonde director David Leitch took over for Tim Miller after creative differences between Miller and star Ryan Reynolds caused a rift before production. Deadpool 2 was far from a failure, but it did make less than its predecessor, which is a bad sign in the superhero movie game, and only rarely happens. In many ways, Deadpool 2 is a more conventional superhero movie, with themes of love and family. They made it more earnest than you'd expect from a Deadpool movie, as it veered into territory of the films it skewered. What's important to note about the successes and failures for new directors tackling sequels is that, generally, if the first film is good enough, a sequel, no matter the quality, likely won't take the entire franchise. While a director who helms the follow-up to a classic may not have the same innovative artistic creativity as her forerunner, fans are often so sold on the first film that they will show up in numbers great enough to get the series to a third entry. Jaws, Terminator, Rocky, The Exorcist, Star Wars, Halloween, all these franchises started off under one visionary director, yet continued for years after their original filmmaker moved on. It's a testament to the work that these directors have created that audiences still show up in droves once the director's cap changes possession, only to have it eventually peter out in most cases, or turn over a new leaf and launch a fresh version of the same franchise as in Creed. It also doesn't hurt casting a guy who looks like a literal action figure. So what do you guys think? Will Creed 2 be a knockout with a new director? Let us know in the comments right down there, and join us here every Friday morning for new episodes of Heat Vision Breakdown. Michael B. Jordan is really good looking.